Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tampa and welcome back, DAV. I now call to order the 99th National Convention of DAV and DAV Auxiliary. National Adjutant Mark Burgess will read the call to convention.
The Constitution and bylaws of DAV, Disabled American Veterans, state that the supreme legislative powers of this organization shall be vested in an annual national convention composed of the national officers and representatives of the state departments and chapters. In accordance with these directives, I, Mark Burgess, National Adjutant and Secretary for this event, declare the 99th National Convention of the Disabled American Veterans to be convened in Tampa, Florida at 8:30 a.m. Saturday, July 31st, 2021. Consideration and disposition of business brought before this convention shall be conducted in accordance with the National Constitution and bylaws now in force.
I would like to ask everyone in attendance to please silence your cell phones and other mobile devices. Please rise. I'll now ask that MacDill Air Force Base Honor Guard from nearby Tampa to deliver the national standard. Present colors. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand while the honor of America with our national anthem. Now please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking the MacDill Air Force Base Honor Guard for the wonderful participation in getting our 99th National Convention started the right way. I'd like to call our auxiliary national chaplain, Orly Nicodemus, to lead us in prayer.
Please join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we are so thankful to be together again here in Tampa. We give thanks for the men and women of the DAV and auxiliary and their lifetime of selfless service over the past century to disabled veterans and their families. We give thanks for the blessing to be here and the sacrifice of the men and women here and across our nation that allows us to meet together. We pray for our troops in harm's way. We pray for the leaders of our nation and of the DAV and auxiliary, and we ask that you'll guide us over the next week as we make the decisions that will lead our organization for the next century. We ask your blessing upon each and every one. We ask you give peace and comfort to those who are grieving. We pray for our families at home, and we ask that you'll bless each and every member here, keep them safe, and put your arms of protection around them. Guide each of our words and actions. We know that many of us have not been able to be with other people over the last 2 years. Help us to be kind, thoughtful, and generous of spirit. In your name, amen.
Welcome to the 99th National Convention of the Disabled American Veterans. I am proud to introduce our 2021 National Convention Chairperson. DAV played a pivotal role in the implementation of American Veterans Disabled for Life Memorial, which opened nearly 7 years ago, and since has become a profoundly important monument in Washington, D.C. We are proud to be joined today by a well-known DAV leader who helped lead the charge to establish this memorial. He has been an endless presence and determined advocate for its use. Dennis Joyner is a combat disabled veteran of the Vietnam War. As a soldier in the U.S. Army, he became a triple amputee after a landmine exploded while he was on patrol in Vietnam's Mekong Delta in 1969. A life member of DAV since 1970, Joyner served as a national commander from 1983 to 1984. In 1983, President Reagan named him the Handicapped American of the Year, and that same year, he was honored as DAV's National Outstanding Disabled Veteran of the Year. He was appointed board president for the Disabled Veterans Life Memorial Foundation in 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2021 Convention Chair, Dennis Joyner.
Thank you, Commander. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, DAV and auxiliary. Welcome to Tampa. All right. It's been a long 2 years since we've been able to hold a national convention, and it is such an honor to be here to welcome you back and to help support the important business that we'll accomplish this week. The pandemic and the suffering we face since our world changed has affected all of us in ways great and small. It will cast a shadow on generations of Americans who will remember the time that we were forced to disconnect from the routines and relationships that brought us the most comfort. We have, all of us, lost something. As disabled veterans, caregivers, and advocates, dealing with a setback is not a new concept. The shared experience of enduring life-changing losses is, in a way, the tie that binds us together. But to those of us who have sacrificed a great deal already, the cost of the pandemic has been the hole it has left in our hearts. I want to tell you about a couple of guys who made DAV a particularly special community to me. Just over a half a century ago, 3 young soldiers were called to war. I was one of them. The other 2 were Chad Cawley and Jim Sursley. Jim was an athlete and, to be honest, a bit of a hellion from Rochester, Minnesota. He saw a billboard in his hometown that said, "Uncle Sam needs you." 3 months later, he was in the Army. Boot camp hadn't challenged him physically, and track vehicle training was a breeze. His biggest problem in the Army was that he wasn't what you would call a good garrison soldier. So he volunteered to go to Vietnam. He arrived in March 1968, a month after the Tet Offensive, as casualties were peaking. When he arrived in country, he found out his job in the military had changed. "Son," his first sergeant told him, "we don't actually have a motor pool, but we're going to get you a toolbox. You'll be a machine gunner in the 3rd Platoon." Chad took a different route. He joined the Army after running track and playing football in college. He was a very special leader. As a young officer with the 101st Airborne Division, he arrived in Vietnam in 1967 and found himself promoted from platoon to company commander in just 6 months. He was a rising star who would, many would have guessed, become a general one day. And my route from Vietnam was completely different. I had tried college, but I took a break just before I graduated. I got married, and at just 19 years old, had a son. But just as my new family had started, I received a very nice letter from the local draft board. They must have thought very highly of me, because they placed me in a very special category they called 1A. It was then that I found out that a student deferment was something you only get one time. I'd already played that card. Goodbye hair, hello Army. I started basic training in December of 1968, finished infantry training, and was shipped off to Vietnam by the end of May. You might guess from looking at me, that didn't turn out so great. On patrol in the Mekong Delta, I lost 3 limbs as a result of a landmine explosion. A part of my war was over, but as many of you know, a new fight had begun. Going back to Jim, Army life away from the barracks suited him. After seeing fierce combat against the Viet Cong and the NVA, he was promoted twice in just 10 months. With just weeks left before the end of his tour, he was setting up a Claymore mine for a night operation when he triggered a landmine. The blast traumatically amputated 3 of his limbs. The force and flame of the explosion were so intense that they cauterized his wounds. He didn't even need a tourniquet. His proximity to the blast probably saved his life. It took 30 days for Jim to regain enough consciousness to even realize what he lost. When his mother was able to make it to Fitzsimmons Hospital in Colorado, she walked right past him. She couldn't even recognize him after all he had endured. Meanwhile, Chad was leading his company in July of that same year when he stepped on a landmine in a Vietnamese village. As was the case for Jim and I, the blast ultimately took his legs and arm. He had earned the Silver and Bronze Stars for heroism in combat. In 2014, Chad reflected on his injuries with gratitude.
Life is so rewarding when you give yourself the opportunity to have success. Don't let what happened be the anchor that you got to drag around for the rest of your life. When you consider the nature of my wounds and the fact that I survived, I mean, I was that close, right up against this veil, this little thin veil between here and hereafter. I saw many men put in a body bag that you could have covered your wound with a quarter. So, do I feel blessed? You better believe it.
Wow. We 3 made our way back to the States to face surgeries and uncertainty. It was a different time. There was no Americans with Disabilities Act. The world was a much less accommodating place. In 1976, I met Donna. who would go on to become my wife of the last 40 years. I felt whole again for the first time since the war. We, each of us, tried to move on. I met Chad in 1980 when we both served as national line officers for DAV. Because we had similar disabilities, we became known as bookends. Chad was a pioneering athlete in winter sports. After serving as national commander, he represented the U.S. in the 1992 Paralympics in France and won 2 gold medals. He was DAV's longtime National Disabled Veterans Winter Sports Clinic chair. He and his wife, Betty Ann, held workshops with recently injured veteran couples to share their experiences and offer advice on relationships and living. Chad excelled in real estate and remained a lifelong advocate for disabled veterans. And while he was able to convince me to try out one of his sit skis, experimental sit skis in Austria in the 80s, one thing he never could convince me to do was fly with him in his private plane. I met Jim in 1991 at an Orlando Magic basketball game. He was in the handicapped area across the court. I thought, this guy has to be a veteran. After the game, I introduced myself and I asked, "Did you lose your limbs in Nam?" He told me instead he had been involved in a tragic tricycle accident when he was 2. That was the start of a lifelong friendship. We hunted together and developed so many different ways to joke about our disabilities that people really weren't sure how to take us. Jim didn't use a power chair, so if we were going to lunch at an event like this, he'd grab onto the back of my chair seat and we'd get around. If someone saw him, he'd say, "Shh, he doesn't know I'm back here." Jim had returned to the States and tried to make a go of life in Minnesota. But the winters and the lack of accessibility brought him down here to Florida. Like Chad, he went into real estate. He married his lovely wife, Jeannie. He had 4 children, 12 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. He was a complete success and a leader in every sense. Until the pandemic, we were 3. 3 soldiers, 3 triple amputees injured in the same war, in the same year. 3 with many of the same challenges and a shared desire to make life better for our fellow veterans and their families. 3 past Disabled Veterans of the Year and former national commanders. We were a community within the DAV community. We were never alone because even though we lived apart, we knew we had each other. Then came the pandemic. Though COVID-19 didn't take Chad's life, it took him away from us for the time that he had left. After 53 years of marriage, Betty Ann, his children and grandchildren, bid him farewell at the end of January. Jim had just completed the Grand Slam of turkey hunting. He was staying with his son Dax in Montana when he fell ill. And while the Viet Cong couldn't stop him, this terrible, insidious microscopic virus took everything he had. These are not the only people that we lost since the last time we were here. They're not even the only past national commanders. Larry Paulzine, another Vietnam-era veteran, passed. And Craig Jonikin, Donna Tanner, Lucille McCarthy, Mary Beth Schultz, and Maureen Peterson, all past national commanders, are no longer with us. And all of us here can think of a loved one we lost too soon. or the separation that made a difficult time worse. And yet, here we are. While this pandemic has taken much away, we have a lot left. And that is what we're here to celebrate. Just before the pandemic, I reconnected with someone I hadn't seen since I was in Vietnam. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to my friend, Doc Hayes. I was serving with the 9th Infantry Division in the Mekong Delta in South Vietnam. We were out on a mission, and I tripped a landmine, and the explosion caused the loss of both of my legs above the knee and my left arm. I never lost consciousness when this happened, so I knew everything that was going on, and without Doc and the sergeant, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, I thought about him a lot through the years and wondered how he was doing and what he was doing, and whether, you know, he had done anything other than just sitting in a wheelchair with his life.
I just want the opportunity to get with Doc. First, I want to thank him. Secondly, there's just a part of me that kind of wants to apologize to him for what I put him through, that day. And I know it wasn't my fault, but that's just something inside of me that I'm sure he's had a vivid memory for a lot of years, for as bad as I was wounded.
I can still picture that day, but that's going to be there for the rest of my life.
I was very restless last night, thinking about it all night long. What do I want to say? How do I want to say it? Could I ever thank him enough?
Hey, brother. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. I was afraid I'd be starting, like I am now, reliving a lot of those experiences. I didn't, how am I going to react to that? And, but I would say now, reach out to them.
Glad you did.
Glad I did.
Reconnecting with Doc before this national tragedy struck reminds me of the mercy of our Creator. Doc is a life member of the DAV, and he's joined us here today. Doc. Without this man, I wouldn't be here today. Thanks, brother.
I'm glad I was there.
Okay. Yeah, Doc. While we can never fully replace what is taken from us, our DAV gives us a common calling, a shared mission. We honor our fallen by participating in our community. We remember their contributions by serving the cause that inspired them to greatness. If Jim and Chad were with us here today, they'd really be proud to see us gathered and getting back to important work that calls us here. And they'd want us to get as much done and have as much fun as possible with our time together. This is, after all, an amazing place to spend some time. Just out in front of the hotel is the Blue Gazebo. You can hop on the Tico streetcar. The line runs east to Ybor City and all the way north to Franklin Street in downtown Tampa. It's free of charge and accessible to all of us. The Tampa Riverwalk is less than a 5-minute car ride from right here, and it stretches just over 2.5 miles along the Hillsborough River and Garrison Channel. It connects downtown Tampa's favorite attractions like Gems on a String. Once there, you can enjoy the Florida Aquarium. There, you can even touch the stingrays, if you don't mind losing some limbs. I think I'll pass. From the Tampa Bay History Center to Sparkman Wharf on the Riverwalk, there's plenty to do. So please, enjoy yourself and make the most of this time. Take advantage of every opportunity we'll have to chart the course of our great charity with your fellow veterans and family members. Let me know if there's anything that we can do to make your stay here more worthwhile. God bless you, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Dennis. It is an honor to have you here with us today.
And now, your DAV auxiliary staff and national officers. DAV National Auxiliary Adjutant Pat Kemper of Kentucky. National Chaplain Aurelie Nicodemus of New Hampshire. Judge Advocate Paula Raymond of Illinois. 4th Junior Vice Commander Linda Gerke of Missouri. 3rd Junior Vice Commander Anne Marie Hurley of Massachusetts. 2nd Junior Vice Commander Julie Weissman Steinbaugh of Nevada. 1st Junior Vice Commander Darlene Spence of Texas. Senior Vice Commander Lynn Helms-Prosser of South Carolina. And Auxiliary National Commander Diane Franz from right here in Florida. And Auxiliary Past National Commander Ellen Timmerman of New Mexico. And now your DAV National Officers. Your past National Commander and Chairperson of the Board from China Spring, Texas, Dennis Nixon. The pride of Grand Forks, North Dakota, our National Judge Advocate Mike Dobmeyer. Your 3rd Junior Vice Commander from California, Dan Contreras. Your 2nd Junior Vice Commander from Kaysville, Utah, Nancy Espinoza. Your 1st Junior Vice Commander from Great Falls, Montana, Joseph Parsetich. And finally, welcome to the stage your Senior Vice Commander from Palm Harbor, Florida, Andy Marshall.
Good morning. It is my great honor to formally introduce a friend and great leader. Commander Whitehead was born in Tremont, Minnesota, and now resides in Rosemount, Minnesota with his wife, Kim. He is a life member of Chapter 10 in Mankato, Minnesota. Butch is a proud United States Army National Guard Sergeant Major who enlisted in 1991 at the age of 17. He was injured during a mortar attack while deployed in Shawnee, Iraq on February 22, 2007. Butch joined DAV and was appointed adjutant of the Department of Minnesota in 2012. Butch has served in various leadership capacities at the chapter level as well as on various committees within the state. He has been a leader from the get-go, working to ensure veterans have access to programs and services that benefit their physical and mental well-being. He is chiefly concerned with the welfare of those who have served with him, fellow veterans, families, and friends. I can say without any doubt that Stephen Butch Whitehead has been a fighter for this country, for the way of life we hold sacred, and for veterans and their families for the past 2 years. So much so that recently during the Great Western Open in Minnesota, he took home the first ever Tom Lyons Make a Difference Award. Commander Whitehead lives up to the award's criteria of service before self to assist service members, veterans, military families, caregivers, and survivors. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure that I introduce your National Commander, Stephen Butch Whitehead.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tampa. I don't know about all of you, but I'm extremely excited to physically be in your presence and get this 99th National Convention underway. If you are too, let me hear it. Adjutant Burgess, Executive Director Jezanowski, Executive Director Reese, fellow veterans, family, friends, and honored guests, thank you so much for giving up some of your time to be here and for that great welcome. During my tenure as your National Commander, DAV commemorated a century of dedicated service to America's veterans, their families, and survivors. While it certainly looked and felt different than we had planned, it gave us an important opportunity to reflect on our organization's history and the lessons we've learned in the face of adversity. As all of you know, DAV was formed in 1920 in the wake of World War I and as the influenza pandemic of 1918 drew to its end. We can find many parallels between the time of our establishment and our centennial anniversary: a viral outbreak sweeping the globe, overburdened healthcare systems, economic downturn, and, underlying it all, a pressing need to address critical issues impacting our nation's wartime disabled veterans. I am more than proud to say that despite the significant challenges of this past year, thanks to the dedication and adaptability of DAV's members, volunteers, and staff all across this nation, DAV's mission did not change and or committed to it did not falter. DAV's mission is rooted in service, and when veterans needed us most, as many lost their jobs, fell ill, or became isolated in their homes, DAV members, volunteers, and staff quickly pivoted to provide the resources necessary to help those in need. When time got tough, DAV services simply cannot afford to stop or even slow down. They're too important to the veterans and families we serve. All of you in this room played a huge part in our organization's success over the last 2 years. Though our offices across the nation were closed to foot traffic to help limit the spread of the virus, DAV rapidly stood up and staffed a new toll-free hotline for veterans to reach our experts for help with claims and benefits. And despite the pandemic, in 2020, our services resulted in veterans and their families obtaining more than $23 billion in earned benefits. DAV also established the COVID-19 Unemployment Relief Fund in April to provide financial aid to service-connected disabled veterans who lost employment or income in the wake of the virus outbreak. Individuals like Air Force veteran Amber Frymark watch as income from her veteran-owned business slowed during the pandemic. Meanwhile, business insurance, storage fees, and administrative costs were still due. The DAV Relief Fund enabled Amber to pay some of her disabled veterans' small business bills and lift some of her overwhelming pressure off of her shoulders. Sadly, many ill and injured veterans, like Amber, found themselves out of work or at risk of losing their disabled veteran-owned small businesses. The bottom line was that veterans and their families were losing income, and DEV had to find a way to help them put food on the table and pay their bills. Urgent needs warranted immediate action. Veterans receiving assistance through the DAV COVID-19 Relief Fund also were exposed to the wide umbrella of other services and programs DAV offers, which only strengthened their position. Veterans like Donnell Boyles, a disabled Navy veteran and single mother who lost her income during the economic downturn created by the virus in 2020. While the relief fund allowed her to quickly get food on the table for her family, it also introduced her to DAV National Service Officer. In addition to assisting Boyles with her claim, the NSO reached out to the DAV Department of Indiana, which graciously honored her request for additional relief, providing her with a gift card for groceries and gas. Then, DAV Chapter 27 in Lafayette, Indiana, chipped in and provided her with additional gift card for groceries and essential items. This is what makes our organization special and so unique. Nobody is satisfied with just meeting the need. DAV members go above and beyond and find creative ways to maximize our services and programs. It doesn't end there. As we watched unemployment numbers soar last year and hundreds of thousands of veterans were without work, DAV transformed all of our in-person career fairs to virtual events. Our organization's ability to be flexible and adjust on a moment's notice proved vital to thousands of veterans and their spouses looking for employment during such an unpredictable time. Thousands of veterans received job offers as a result of these events. The impact it had on their lives during an incredible, stressful time is simply immeasurable. These virtual hiring events also provided opportunities for spouses like Colette Stein, who landed a job in television and was able to relocate and reunite with her family. Although the full and lasting impact of this pandemic is not yet clear, we do know there are many issues our nation must stand ready to address. Healthcare is chief among them. The Department of Veterans Affairs has reported more than 272,000 coronavirus cases among veterans, with more than 12,679 veteran deaths. Over the course of this pandemic, the VA had to make drastic changes in how it delivered health care, significantly increasing telehealth services and adapting to the ever-changing landscape. While the VA has worked hard to keep veterans connected with their mental health providers, we are concerned that many have faced dark times and been isolated from friends and families, perhaps without access to outlets, support systems, and resources they had relied on in the past. We will all need to work together to ensure we don't lose ground in the battle against veteran suicide. We must also explore what the future of the VA healthcare will look like after such significant changes have been implemented, and we must discuss how the VA will address delays on critical projects, initiatives, programs, and services. While we have many challenges ahead of us, we know that when we work together, despite internal and external obstacles, we can make progress, such as the expanded access to benefits and health care to Vietnam veterans suffering from the impacts of Agent Orange. Last year, more than 30,000 Vietnam veterans gained access to VA health care and received almost $800 million in retroactive benefits payments due to the enactment and implementation of Blue Water Navy Vietnam veterans. In addition, this past December, Congress approved legislation to expand the list of presumptive Agent Orange diseases, extending health care and benefits to thousands more deserving Vietnam veterans. But we must not allow other generations of veterans to endure similar unnecessary delays accessing health care and benefits. This includes those exposed to burn pits in the Middle East, hazardous chemical agents at the K2 base in Uzbekistan, or contaminated water at bases here in the U.S. DAV is proud to be the charity that first brought the issue of burn pits to light. We have also led the way in Congress a couple of years ago by developing legislation to create a concession of exposure to burn pits in order to help veterans more easily prove claims for benefits. And this year, we have been working successfully with the House and Senate Veterans Affairs Committees as they both move forward with comprehensive burn pits and toxic exposure legislation. While there are still a number of political hurdles left to clear, we have never been closer to having Congress approve toxic exposure legislation that will provide effective veterans health care eligibility, create a concession of exposure, establish presumptive of service connection for veterans exposed to burn pits, and enact a new framework for future presumptives so that veterans never again have to wait decades to receive the health care and benefits they have earned and deserve. Another important issue that requires urgent action is the expansion of VA's program of comprehensive assistance for family caregivers. As you know, the VA Mission Act mandated that the expansion of caregiver assistance to all generations of veterans in 2 phases. However, the first phase was delayed by a full year due to the VA's failure to certify a new caregiver IT system on time. While certain veterans of the World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam eras finally became eligible last October, the delay has also set back the second phase of expansion to October of next year. We ask Congress to hold VA accountable to fully and faithfully implement the expansion of the Caregivers program without further delays by passing legislation that would authorize VA to begin phase 2 of the expansion as soon as possible and well before next October. This past 18 months has challenged us as a nation in ways none of us could have even imagined. But like President Abraham Lincoln, I have faith in America's resilience in such atrocious times. He said, if given the truth, people can be depended upon to meet the nation's crisis. The great point is, bring them the real facts. Undoubtedly, we will be experiencing the impacts of this pandemic for years to come and must stand prepared to address the long-term ramifications for America's veterans by confronting these new realities. But together, moving forward with the candor and transparency, we can work to overcome the challenges and setbacks this past year has laid at our nation's doorstep. I can't thank my amazing wife, Kim, nearly enough. She has been beside me each and every step of the way over the last 2 years, and I could have not done it without her. In keeping with tradition, I hope you allow me to honor you with my final salute for all you do in maintaining our mission of providing a lifetime of support for our veterans, their families, and survivors. May God bless all the young men and women currently in harm's way. His mercy shine upon those changed in military service, and may God bless the USA.
Commander, under your leadership, this has been an incredible 2 years for DAV. Thank you. You set an inspiring example for us all. I move to accept a National Commander's Report. May I have a second?
Trent Dilks, Department of Minnesota, Chapter 12, second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So ordered. Great report, Commander.
Thank you, Andy. And now, let me introduce the governing body of this fine organization, your DAV National Executive Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand to be recognized. And I ask that the Auxiliary National Executive Committee to stand to be recognized as well. It is my honor to introduce this message from the 46th President of the United States, President Joe Biden. Since taking office in January 2021, President Biden has focused on his immediate priorities, taking control of the COVID-19 pandemic, providing economic relief, tackling climate change, advancing racial equity and civil rights, as well as taking immediate actions to reform the nation's immigration system and restore America's standing in the world. As a parent of a service member who deployed to Iraq, the President and his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, have said that they acknowledge that it's not just the military members who sign up to serve, their families do too. They are dedicated to fulfilling America's commitment to military families, caregivers, and survivors. As Vice President and supporting the White House Joint Forces Initiative, respectively, the President and First Lady visited the National Disabled Veterans Winter Sports Clinic in 2011. Since taking office, President Biden has pledged to expand benefits to ensure that victims of burn pits or exposure to military-related pollutants have access to health care and compensation. He has also prioritized expanding the VA's telehealth opportunities to improve access to health care for veterans and to end veterans homeless, giving them the attention and priority they demand. The Bidens have long been adamant that as a nation, our one true sacred obligation is to properly prepare and equip our troops when we send them to war, and to take care of them and their families during the deployment and when they return home. Ladies and gentlemen, a message from our President.
Hello, everyone. The DAV, the Disabled American Veterans Annual Convention, is an important moment. And congratulations on more than 100 years of outstanding service and dedication to our nation's veterans. You know, I know you missed celebrating your centennial together last year, but you never once stopped advocating for our veterans or helping with their service-connected claims during the entire pandemic. That was critically important. And I want to start by just saying thanks. Thank you for all that you have to do, all that you've done to support veterans with disabilities and their caregivers year-round, without fail, no matter what else is happening in the world. You have never let up. You all know how I view the nation's commitment to our veterans. It's a sacred obligation. It's as simple as that. And it's personal for me and for Jill. You know, we Bidens are a military family. Our son Bo deployed to Iraq for a year. We prayed for a safe return every single day. We as a nation must always care for those brave Americans who risk everything and sacrifice so much for our country, as well as their families, survivors, caregivers. And in my administration, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that the VA and the VA healthcare center system are providing our veterans with timely access to world-class healthcare and the benefits that go with that. And that means making sure we're doing everything we can to address all the cost of war that our veterans may be facing, including the effects of toxic exposure from burn pits, traumatic brain injuries, post-traumatic stress disorder, and other mental health challenges. We have to finish the work of eliminating veterans' homelessness by ensuring pathways for permanent housing that include wraparound support services. We have to bring down the unacceptable rate of suicide among our veterans. Our veterans are so used to being strong for others. We have to let them know it's okay. It's okay to ask for help. And when they do reach out, we have to make sure it's there, at the ready, no waiting. That's why my budget for this year includes increases for the VA, particularly around healthcare, suicide prevention, housing, and expanding services for women veterans. And thanks to the vaccine, we've been able to protect both our veterans and our VA employees from COVID-19. So any veteran who held off in getting care during the pandemic can come forward safely, for all the care is there now and being delivered totally safely. The American Rescue Plan ensures the VA has the funding for that care and to help veterans and their families recover from economic impacts of COVID-19, including funds for retraining veterans to help them get back to work. And we're going to make sure that veterans' needs are a priority as we build back better from this pandemic. Everyone on my team, myself, Secretary Mcdonough, leaders across the administration are going to keep fighting to get our veterans everything they need, and I mean everything. We're going to keep our sacred obligation to you, I promise you. And I hope you all have a wonderful convention. And I look forward to joining you in person in future years. Most of all, thank you again for all that you do for our proud community of veterans. And may God protect our troops.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Honorable Dennis Mcdonough nomination to lead the Department of Veterans Affairs was confirmed by the United States Senate on February 8th, 2021. The next day, he was officially sworn in as 11th Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Before his current role at the VA, Secretary Mcdonough served in the President Obama's administration as the White House Chief of Staff from February 2013 to January 2017. Prior to his role as Chief of Staff, Mr. Mcdonough was Principal Deputy National Security Advisor from October 2010 to January 2013. He also served as the Chief of Staff of the National Security Staff and as a Deputy National Security Advisor for Strategic Communications. Following his White House tenure, Secretary Mcdonough was Professor of the Practice of Public Policy at the Kehoe School of Global Affairs at the University of Notre Dame, Senior Advisor and Senior Principal at the Markle Foundation, and on the Board of Directors of the Tent Partnership for Refugees and the SAFE Project, a national nonprofit working to end the nation's catastrophic addiction epidemic. Ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to introduce my fellow Minnesotan and the 11th Secretary of Veterans Affairs, the Honorable Dennis Mcdonough.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here with you this morning. Thank you, Butch, for that kind introduction and your steadfast leadership of DAV. Let me just say thanks for one other thing. A bunch of people out here might have thought I have an accent when I give this talk, but I want to thank you for warming them up. Love hearing that good Minnesota accent. When I look around this room, I see so many people deserving our gratitude. Diane France, your Auxiliary National Commander. Mark Burgess, your National Adjutant. Pat Kemper, your Auxiliary National Adjutant. Jessica Janowski, Executive Director of DAV's National Headquarters in Kentucky. Randy Reese, Executive Director of DAV's Washington, D.C. Headquarters. And of course, all of you who have joined us today in person and online for the 99th Annual Convention of the Disabled American Veterans. 99 years is an incredible accomplishment. And after this past year, there's so much for us to discuss. But I want to begin by saying, as the President did, thank you to all of you for your service to the nation, for your devotion to veterans throughout the years, for executing on your mission of empowering veterans to lead high-quality lives with respect and dignity. Now, I'm not a veteran, but I've had the unique privilege of spending much of my life surrounded by and working with veterans, giving me a long-standing appreciation of the life and death importance of your work. Growing up, I learned about the honor that comes with military service from my grandpa Mcdonough, a proud Marine. On my frequent trips to Afghanistan and Iraq while I was in the White House, I saw the excellence of our armed forces and the grueling nature of long deployments. On my many visits to Walter Reed, I admired the strength and resilience of our wounded warriors. And at Dover, where our fallen heroes come home one final time, I've borne witness to the unimaginable grief of military families as they say their final goodbyes. And in my first several months at VA, it's been the honor of my life to try to serve all of you as well as you have served us. You know, President Biden often says, as he just did, that our most sacred obligation is to prepare and equip the troops we send into harm's way and to care for them and their families when they return home. That's the promise that we as a nation make to anyone who signs up for military service. If you take care of us, we'll take care of you. If you fight for us, we'll fight for you. If you have our backs, we'll have your backs when you transition out of service. The thing is, our nation as a whole makes that promise. But we, VA and DAV, all of us, are among those most responsible for keeping that promise. It's a difficult job, but it's one that you do exceedingly well. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for all you do. There is no more noble mission than partnering with you and serving our veterans, families, caregivers, and survivors. But when I look around the room, even on this day of celebration, there's a gnawing feeling of grief. Because this year, perhaps more than any other, it's impossible not to notice the absence of those no longer with us. We remember people like Jim Searsley and Chad Colley, both former national commanders of DAV, just talked about this backstage with Dennis, who were wounded in Vietnam and dedicated the rest of their lives to helping other disabled veterans like themselves. And of course, we remember the DAV members, VA employees, and veterans we've lost throughout the course of this devastating pandemic. When I think about the more than 610,000 people this country has lost to COVID, I remember that they are your people, our people, the veterans we serve, the friends we want to call, the family members even missing from our dinner table, from supper tables. We remember all those we lost, and our hearts go out to all that they've left behind. But it's also important to remember that there are so many veterans out there right now enjoying their summers with their families, or perhaps even sitting right here in this room, whose lives have been saved or bettered because of the work that we've all done together. William Essercon is just one example. William is a DAV member, an Army vet in Milwaukee, who has a condition that prevents blood from pumping properly to his brain, meaning that he gets dizzy, can't drive. But he often needs to get to the VA. He had safe transportation to VA for a while. But then the service he had been using ended, meaning he had no way to get to his appointments during the pandemic. That's when he found out about DAV and began getting rides from your volunteer drivers. Without DAV, he said, I would have been left out in the cold. The drivers are good people who are doing it because they want to help, not because it's a job. The VA, he said, is like my second home. And DAV helped get him there. That's the power of our partnership, which has been on display throughout this pandemic, as Butch just talked through. Our VA employees have shown unwavering strength and determination. When PPE was running low, they invented reusable 3D printed PPE and got it straight to the front lines, to guys like Joe. When it wasn't safe for vets to come to the hospital, they cared for our vets online, ramping up telehealth appointments from 2,500 per day last March to 45,000 per day a year later. And when the vaccine became available, they sprang into action and vaccinated more than 3.6 million people. Now, the same is true for all of you here at DAV. You quickly stood up a national phone system when the pandemic hit, helping vets and their families file nearly 140,000 benefits claims in the last year. And even as your own family struggled with the economic hardship of the pandemic, you invested your hard-earned dollars in an unemployment relief fund that helped veterans feed their families, pay their bills, and stay above water when they feared they might be drowning. And your team of volunteer drivers logged almost 10 million hours. 10 million hours. Providing 243,000 rides to VA healthcare facilities at a time when that access could have easily spelled the difference between life and death. All of that work translates into the one statistic that matters most: lives saved and improved by the work we do together. In the time when disabled veterans like William needed us most, DAV and VA rose to the occasion, and we did it together. Now, as we all know, our work on the pandemic is far from over. We've already lost thousands of veterans to this deadly disease, and now the Delta variant is causing an exponential increase in infections, hospitalizations, and deaths once again. That's why everyone needs to be vaccinated. I can't say it enough. 99% of those dying from COVID right now are unvaccinated. So let me put it a different way. Almost every death from this day forward is entirely preventable. But don't take my word for it. Listen to the doctors. The doctor in Alabama told a harrowing story the other day, saying that the unvaccinated COVID patients are begging her right before they are put on a ventilator for the vaccine. But at that point, all she can do is hold their hands and tell them, "I'm sorry, but it's too late." And hours later, when she calls time of death for those patients, she has to tell their families that the best way to honor their deceased loved ones is to get the vaccine. Because if they don't, that tragic story will repeat itself. I don't want that to be you, or your families, or the vets we know and love. That's why we took the extraordinary step this week of mandating vaccines for VA employees who directly care for you, for our vets. And that's why I'm asking you right now to please get vaccinated if you haven't already. More than half the nation's vets have done so. And thanks to the Save Lives Act, all veterans, their spouses, their caregivers can be vaccinated safely, easily, free of charge. The vaccine will save your life, protect your families, and keep our fellow veterans safe. And fortunately, you can get vaccinated right now on the 4th floor of the Marriott Hotel across the street, which is connected to this hotel. It's connected to this whole hotel right here on the 3rd floor by a skyway. We know some about those. When you have a few minutes today, please head over there, get the shot. That's the only way we can end this pandemic and finally return to normal life. But while we want our lives to return to normal, we must recognize that some things shouldn't go back to the way they were. At VA, for example, we shouldn't go back to the old way of doing things, because the work we've done to respond to the pandemic has forged us into a stronger, better department for our nation's veterans. Telehealth and teleappeals are allowing us to meet vets where they want, when they want, in unprecedented ways. Outpatient trust scores among vets rose to 90% this year, which in my mind should be the floor, not the ceiling. And our team rated its 1 millionth disability claim faster this year than almost ever before. Frankly, faster this year than I can clap for that. Faster than any year in the history of the VA but one. That's a result of our goal to make sure that vets get their benefits on time, every time. On time, every time. And our cemeteries not only stayed open during the pandemic, but expanded to 6 new locations. Bottom line, we are now providing more care and more benefits to more veterans than ever before. So, as we look to the future, we're not trying to build a VA that goes back to the old normal. With your help, we're going to continue to do better for our vets. We're going to continue to be better for our vets. And we're going to do that by driving toward the 4 fundamental principles our vision of our vision for the future of VA. Advocacy, access, outcomes, and excellence. First, advocacy. We're working to make sure that VA is the nation's premier advocate for veterans, their families, caregivers, and survivors. Veterans have earned the care and services we provide. We exist to best serve them, not to do what's easy for VA. And when it comes to advocacy, it starts at the top. Our shared mission could not be a higher priority for this president and this administration, as you saw a few minutes ago, and it could not be closer to the president's heart. When he nominated me to lead VA, he told me to fight like hell for our vets. That's exactly what we're doing. And this administration is doing the same, delivering for our vets with the Save Lives Act, as I mentioned earlier, with the American Rescue Plan, which has allocated $17 billion for us to help care for vets during the pandemic, and with the proposed American Jobs Plan, which will provide $18 billion to modernize VA facilities, create jobs for vets, and expand opportunities for small veteran-owned businesses. But as we all know, advocacy at the White House level doesn't mean anything if we don't utilize the benefits that if vets can't utilize the benefits that they've earned, which is where you come in. For many veterans, and certainly for some of the most deserving veterans, you are their first impression of the VA, the front door to the benefits that they've earned. You're sitting across the table from them, or their surviving spouses or the dependents, every single day. All of which is to say, DAV is one of VA's most important partners, and I'm committed to working with you every day to improve access for veterans. So on access, second, we'll move heaven and earth to get veterans timely access to their VA resources. That's world-class health care, that's earned benefits, and it's a dignified final resting place that's a lasting tribute to their selfless service to this country. And a major part of that equation is making sure that veterans have the best possible experience wherever they access VA benefits and services, at home, in the community, or at VA. That's why we're meeting vets where they are, by expanding telehealth and teleappeals, and by supporting our caregivers. Let me say this very, very clearly. Caregivers are not an afterthought for us. They're a top priority. That's why I've appointed Meg Cabot to be the first ever senior advisor for caregivers, and we look forward to expanding the program of comprehensive assistance to cover all caregivers as soon as possible. For vets who are getting care in the community, we're building a network that has the right providers in the right locations to meet the needs of our veterans, no matter where they live. And of course, we're dedicated to improving the experience for vets who get direct care from VA. That means finding the right balance between community care and direct care, putting the direct care system on a sustainable path to ensure that future generations of veterans enjoy the same great VA health care that past generations have enjoyed. And it means rebuilding, repairing, realigning, and modernizing VA's healthcare infrastructure to meet your needs. Because that infrastructure is critical for the health of our nation's vets and the health of our nation. VA is the backstop and innovator at the heart of an entire U.S. healthcare system, training American physicians, researching tomorrow's challenges, and innovating today to overcome them. And that is never going to change. and it sure won't change on my watch. Next, I want to talk about veterans' outcomes. Outcomes drive everything we do because vets, not us, are the ultimate judges of our success. One major focus here is toxic exposure. We're not waiting for Congress to act on this. We're going ahead and acting ourselves. We've already announced 3 major updates. First, we're creating a new comprehensive decision-making model for determining presumptive conditions, a model that will leverage all available science, better utilize claims data, and be guided by one core principle: getting vets the benefits they deserve. Second, veterans suffering from bladder cancer, hypothyroidism, and Parkinsonism due to Agent Orange can now be paid the benefits they're owed. And third, we are very close to being able to pay disability benefits to veterans who suffer from respiratory conditions, which may include asthma, sinusitis, and rhinitis, as a result of their service in Southwest Asia, Afghanistan, and Uzbekistan. We're moving on this with the utmost urgency, and we expect to have news on this any day. Veterans have waited for these benefits far too long, and they should not have to wait any longer. As Butch underscored, another fundamental priority is preventing veteran suicide. Mental health services are critical for suicide prevention, so keeping them going during the pandemic has been one of our primary focuses. Fortunately, vets have adapted seamlessly to telemental health sessions, attending 4.4 million sessions already this year, more than doubling their total from all of 2020. Next year's budget will also focus on suicide prevention, investing more than $500 million in outreach programs that address the risks of suicide. And we're going all in on helping rural vets in need of mental health service. That means building 3 new programs in rural locations to help severely mentally ill vets, and creating a new training program designed to attract top-shelf clinicians to rural areas, keep them in rural areas, and care for the vets who live in rural areas. This is an all-hands-on-deck situation. One veteran who commits suicide is one too many. So we'll be partnering with you, with DOD, with public health experts, and others to get vets the help they need before the warning signs turn into tragedies. Lastly, on outcomes, we are laser focused on ending veterans' homelessness. You know, a few weeks ago, at a homeless vets vaccination event right outside VA headquarters, a veteran came to get his shot, and he wasn't wearing any shoes. So we got him vaccinated. Our canteen staff got him a new pair of shoes. On the one hand, that story is heartwarming. A job well done. On the other hand, it's heartbreaking, because that man served our country. He should have shoes on his feet. He should have a roof over his head. In fact, there should be no such thing as a homeless veteran. Not here. Not here. Not in the greatest country on the planet in the history of the world. So I assure you, through HUD-VASH, SSVF, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, and the additional programs we launched this week to help vets through the end of the eviction and foreclosure moratoria, we're going to do whatever it takes to get vets into homes and to keep them there. Finally, excellence. We're seeking excellence in all we do for veterans by leveraging the strength and diversity that defines the veteran population, our VA workforce, and this amazing country. Our diversity is a strength, never a weakness. Every person entering a VA facility must feel safe, free of harassment and discrimination, and we will welcome all veterans. One of my first actions as VA Secretary was ordering a top-down review of all of our policies with the help of DAV and other organizations to determine how we can make VA a more welcoming place. Let me just say a word here, just a side note. Joy Elam on the DAV team is a quiet giant in helping reform our policies. That work has already made an impact. For LGBTQ plus vets, we're taking the initial steps toward expanding VA care to include gender confirmation surgery. For women vets, we're acting to ensure that all of our facilities are safe, respectful, and welcoming, and we're caring for more women vets than ever before. Offering primary care, gynecological care, fertility care, mental health care, and more. And for survivors of military sexual trauma, we're working tirelessly to provide the services they need. Taking steps like centralizing MST-related claims in offices where employees are especially well-trained to help survivors. I agree with that. Now, there's so much more I could say here, but it all boils down to this. For too long, too many veterans who fought around the world to protect our rights and freedoms have had to fight brutal battles here at home for their own rights and freedoms. Tragically, many of those fights continue to today. But at VA, those fights are over. In this administration, nobody's going to have to fight to get quality care, benefits, and services they've earned, no matter who they are or who they love. So, that's where VA is headed, continuing to deliver more care, more benefits, and more services to more veterans than ever before, with advocacy, access, outcomes, and excellence as our guiding principles. But make no mistake, we can't do it without you. Since VA began, we have needed your help, your leadership to serve our vets, and that's just as true now, if not more true now, than ever before. The experiences, perspectives of DAV's 4,000 service officers, 26,000 volunteers, and 1.1 million veterans and survivors are a massively powerful resource. When I think of just how powerful, a couple of stories come to mind. The first is something I remember from my time in the White House. And it's about one of my least favorite things in the world, budget fights. For years, the benefits and health care that vets earned through their service were tied to annual government appropriations and therefore contingent on the annual budget fights and government shutdowns that often hold Washington and, importantly, the country hostage. Well, you all made clear to Congress what was plain to everybody else. That arrangement was unacceptable. In 2009, you developed a proposal and you won the fight to provide VA health care with advance appropriations, thus making sure that our nation's vets get what they deserve every year, no matter what's happening in Washington. The second is the story of Jason Barbier. Both of Jason's grandparents were World War II combat vets. His father was an Air Force reservist, so when Jason turned 19 in 1994, he jumped at the opportunity to enlist in the Marines. But while he was deployed, he suffered back injuries and developed post-traumatic stress. And when he transitioned out of service, he struggled mightily with things like hypervigilance, homelessness, food insecurity. In his own words, he's lost. Then the great people at DAV helped him with his claims process, helped him get counseling, helped him get a job, helped him find a home, your help, Jason rebuilt his life. They were the ones on the other side of the phone when I didn't think I could make it, he said. They, you, answered the phone, and they, you, helped me find myself. They never gave up on me. Even when I gave up on myself, they never gave up on me. That's who you want to be. That's who I want to be. I want to be the guy on the other side of the phone who Jason says, "You never gave up on me." These two stories capture the incredible impact of your work, the incredible ethos of who you are, at the national level and at the individual level, in Congress and in communities, for every veteran and for each veteran. When I said earlier that our nation makes a promise to those who sign up to serve our country, and you are the ones who help keep that promise, that's what I mean. Whether veterans need help for wounds visible or invisible, for benefits, health care or services, for rides to the hospital, or rides down the mountains at Snowmass, you've been there since 1920, answering the call to serve, answering the phone, and being the guy who says, being the person who the vet says, "They did not forget me." And I know you'll be there again, right there again, when that next call comes. So thank you for your magnificent work, for your partnership, for putting up with me, and for all the work we're going to do together. God bless you. God bless our nation's troops, our veterans, their families, caregivers, and survivors. And may we always give you our very best. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Secretary Mcdonough, for giving DAV and our outstanding members some of your time here today. We look forward to our continued work with you and the department to improve the lives of veterans and their families. It now gives me the great pleasure to introduce my leadership partner and a friend to all our nation's veterans and their family members, DAV Auxiliary National Commander Diane France. Diane joined the Auxiliary as a senior life member in 1995. Her membership began as a junior member in Erie, Pennsylvania, through her father, who was 100% disabled. Both Diane's parents were very active in DAV and the Auxiliary. Each held offices, both elected and appointed. She is a life member with Unit 16 right here in Florida. She has been an active member serving as Unit Adjutant, Treasurer, Chaplain, Senior Vice Commander, SEC, alternate SEC, and Chairman of Membership, Ways and Means, VAVS, and Legislative. She has been elected to all chairs on the Auxiliary State Line, District 7, alternate NEC, and NEC, and is presently the DAV Auxiliary State Department Adjutant and Advisor to the State Commander. Diane's historic 2-year tenure atop the Auxiliary has encompassed her passion for DAV and Auxiliary's growth, all the while emphasizing the importance of unity within the organization and our communities. When not hard at work helping veterans and their families, she enjoys going to all parks in Orlando with her son Mark, his wife Sharon, and their 2 grandsons, Owen and Wyatt. Friends, please welcome DAV Auxiliary National Commander Diane France.
Thank you, Commander Whitehead. I am grateful to have the opportunity to speak to all of you here today about critically important issues. The significance of these topics is not limited to myself. Rather, they are essential to all veteran families. I want to thank all of my fellow members in Unit 16 and our counterparts in DAV Chapter 16 right here in Florida. Thank you. All of you have been helping hand and guiding light through these uncertainty of the last 2 years. Again, I thank you. Before I go any further, our beloved DAV and DAV Auxiliary lost a lot since we were last together. That included 5 past commanders. Among those giving souls, Auxiliary Past National Commander Craig Hub Jonikin was a very close personal friend to me and many gathered here today. Hub became the first male Auxiliary National Commander upon his election at the 2017 National Convention in New Orleans. He had many, many friends all across the U.S., including Puerto Rico, which was one of his favorite places. He loved the people and the beautiful scenery there. I would like to hold a moment of silence in honor of Craig for all of our fallen. Thank you. To Craig's loving wife, Teresa, we are here to love and support you. Each and every one of us in this room shares a common responsibility to stay informed and aware of all the facets of the organization and veteran-related issues so we can serve veterans and their families. I believe there are 2 major areas where we must continue to grow. The first is membership. We must continue to grow in our numbers or risk facing long-term setbacks. Membership is the driving force behind our organization, and without new members, we risk losing out on new ideas from new perspectives that could help our auxiliary move forward. The need for growth in membership cannot be more evident than in our volunteering programs. Throughout the country, we have seen a large number of volunteer drivers and VA volunteers drop off recently. Of course, we have been going through an unprecedented time. However, this has meant a loss in a large faction of our volunteers who are older or unable to fulfill their duties because of the risks that they face leaving their homes. This is why, as we continue to grow, we must put a focus on gaining younger members and volunteers. The auxiliary is in an incredible position to expand our ranks of incredible volunteers and support for our nation's heroes. We are the family members of these brave men and women, many of whom are now grandparents, parents, aunts, and uncles. We must encourage a new generation of veteran family members to give back. For our auxiliary juniors or those under 21 who are looking to contribute, there are scholarship opportunities. Hundreds of future leaders have used the Jesse Brown Memorial Youth Scholarship to achieve their goals. DAV Auxiliary also offers a scholarship as part of our education program. I encourage all who are looking to get involved to please think about joining the DAV Auxiliary and giving your spare time to our veterans. Secondly, while we continue to focus on growth as an organization, we must also continue to work with our elected leaders to make sure promises made to our veterans, their families, and survivors are kept. We must focus on meaningful legislation, I would like to see more bills passed to help our most vulnerable veterans, caregivers, and dependents. As we begin to recover from the pandemic that has ravaged so many aspects of normalcy, we cannot forget about the ever-growing number of homeless and at-risk veterans. DAV's Homeless Veterans Initiative, supported by DAV's Charitable Service Trust and Columbia Trust, promotes the development of supportive housing and necessary services to assist homeless veterans in becoming productive, self-sufficient members of society. This initiative is meant to collaborate with local, state, and federal governments and should become a priority for lawmakers as we begin to recover. We have done incredible work when it comes to helping caregivers. Within the last year, veterans and their caregivers in Phase 1 became eligible for the Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers program, and many of you have applied and are now receiving those long overdue benefits and services. As most of us know, some from experience, this program provides training for caregivers along with a modest stipend and respite care. And while there have been unfortunate delays, soon help will finally be available to all generations of caregivers who save taxpayers while improving the quality of life for the most disabled and deserving veterans in our community. Efforts like this remind us of the reason we were called to service through DAV and the auxiliary. Before I conclude, I have a very important and special presentation to make. The DAV Auxiliary Outstanding Member of the Year Award recognizes the contributions and dedication of our top auxiliary member. Their efforts further our shared goals and show service and dedication that are fully above and beyond the ordinary. This year's recipient is Benita Mitchell, a member of Unit 2 in Kansas City, Missouri. Benita has been a dedicated member of the auxiliary for nearly 40 years and currently serves as the Department of Missouri's Judge Advocate. Throughout her membership, she has served as the National 4th Junior Vice Commander, National Chaplain, Department Commander, and on the National Finance and Executive Committees. Benita never stops giving. She is always quick to mentor a new member or assist with wheelchair bowling. She has volunteered for 30 years at the Kansas City VA Medical Center and is constantly at the forefront of whatever a DAV chapter or unit needs. She can always be counted on to lend her organizational skills and experience to ensure all and every program or fundraisers go according to plan. Benita has been an absolute powerhouse. She is always ready to answer any question and encourage those around her. At 83 years young, she is still an active and well-respected member at all levels of the auxiliary. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this year's Outstanding Auxiliary Member of the Year, Benita Mitchell.
National Commander Whitehead and friends, National DAV Auxiliary and the officers, National Adjutant Burgess and Kemper. I became an auxiliary member through my husband, Staff Sergeant Leroy Mitchell, a 100% veteran from the Korean War. It was early 1980s that we heard of the DAV and auxiliary, and we joined the auxiliary at that time. We wish we had heard of this organization back in the 1950s. I want to thank my auxiliary, Ernestine Schumann Hank, number 2 of Kansas City, Missouri, for putting my name in for this award. I really was shocked and surprised when I heard it, that I had won. I want to thank the committee also for selecting me. I feel very privileged and honored to receive this award. God bless all of you. Keep up the good work for our veterans. God bless America.
I was just informed that we had her age wrong. She's 89 years old. She just turned 89. Thank you, Benita, and thank you, Commander Whitehead, for your friendship and partnership. It's been an honor to serve alongside you, and God bless you and your family, and Kim. Can't forget her. I also want to thank my family, Mark, Sharon, Owen, Wyatt, for understanding my often chaotic schedule over the past 2 years. And I want to thank everybody here for the support that they have given. It's been tremendous, it's been rewarding, and I'll treasure it for always. God bless us, God bless America, keep our veterans and our present serving military safe. And this concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane, and that was a wonderful report. DAV's commitment to fulfilling our promises to the men and women who serve is clear through the work of our nationwide transportation network. Throughout the country, our hospital service coordinators and volunteers organize and facilitate critical transportation, making it possible for ill and injured veterans to receive the care they need and earned. The VA medical facilities. Since 1987, DAV headquarters, chapters, departments, and National Service Foundation and the Columbia Trust have purchased 3,558 vehicles at the cost of nearly $83 million. This is a major investment in helping our brothers and sisters get access to the care they need. Despite the obstacles and challenges of 2020, DAV volunteer drivers spent more than 675,000 hours logging over 9.6 million miles, providing no-cost rides for veterans to VA medical facilities. Throughout our history, DAV has received unparalleled support from numerous sources, but there has been only one partner who has faithfully been with us since the beginning. That partner is Ford. While she couldn't be here in person, we have a special message from a dear friend of ours for our cause. Mary Culler is president of Ford Fund, a role she assumed January 1st, 2020, overseeing the company's philanthropic investments through signature programs and employee volunteer outreach in more than 50 countries. Let's take a look.
As the philanthropic arm of Ford Motor Company, Ford Fund has been supporting communities at a grassroots level for more than 70 years by harnessing the power and expertise of the Ford Motor Company network. our employees, dealers, and nonprofit partners. We help build a better world where every person is free to move and pursue their dreams. Together, we provide access to essential needs and services to build equity and help individuals, families, and communities succeed. We develop programs that remove barriers to economic success and provide resources that allow people to thrive, not just survive. And by using the power of mobility, we create unique solutions to social and economic challenges in communities in our own backyard and beyond. After all, we believe freedom of movement should not be reserved for those who can afford it, but available for all to pursue their own path. Ford Fund, keeping the road to a better future open to all who dream of moving forward.
Hi, I'm Mary Culler, president of the Ford Motor Company Fund. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person this year, and I want to thank Commander Whitehead for giving me the opportunity to speak with you virtually. As many of you know, Ford and DAV have a relationship that dates back to 1922 when Henry Ford provided 50 Model Ts so that veterans could attend the second DAV National Convention in San Francisco. As we approach our 100-year anniversary with DAV, our commitment hasn't wavered. We remain committed to helping DAV fulfill its mission of empowering veterans to lead high-quality lives with respect and dignity. I'm also pleased to say that with all of the challenges over the last year, DAV found a way to continue transporting veterans to their medical appointments. Ford is proud to have provided the vehicles that assisted more than 243,000 rides. We also supported DAV staff, volunteers, and veterans through our donation of 1 million face masks produced by Ford UAW employees. The ability to help DAV transport veterans through their transportation network means so much to us. In fact, Ford began donating vehicles in 1966, and today we continue that tradition with the donation of 8 new Ford Transit Connects for use by DAV across the country. This year's recipients are VA medical centers in Tuskegee, Alabama, Tucson, Arizona, District of Columbia, West Palm Beach, Florida, Shreveport, Louisiana, Lexington, Kentucky, Beckley, West Virginia, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. We are so honored to provide these vehicles in appreciation for all of the sacrifices veterans have made to protect our freedom. The recipients will receive their vehicles later in August. On behalf of the 190,000 men and women of Ford Motor Company, I want to personally thank you for your bravery, your loyalty, and for helping to preserve our freedom. Please enjoy the rest of the convention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, and to Ford for your support of DAV. I'd also like to inform our membership that Ford is offering all DAV members a $1,000 private offer to be used in addition to their X-Plan pricing on all new Ford and Lincoln vehicles sales through September 30th, 2021. This is a great opportunity, and I'm glad that Ford is able to continue offering this program for our members. In fact, since 2001, DAV members and their families have purchased more than 30,000 vehicles from Ford through the Ford X-Plan Partner Recognition Program. To learn more about this program, please stop by the Ford booth. At the booth, we will sure say hello to the Ford team and participate in their survey for an opportunity to win prizes including a die-cast Ford vehicle signed by Bill Ford, collective challenge coins, gift cards, and more. For those attending virtually, you can still participate by texting the word DAV to 46786. It is important that future generations understand the service and sacrifices veterans have made to our nation. Serving those who put their country above themselves is a passion for some outstanding young people. DAV is proud to incentivize and recognize tomorrow's leaders who have made a commitment to our cause through our DAV Scholarship Program. Each year, with the continued support of the Ford Motor Company Fund, DAV honors these budding patriots with scholarships for higher education in recognition and appreciation of their volunteer service to our America's heroes. The Jesse Brown Memorial Youth Scholarship is named after one of the most revered leaders in the history of our cause. Jesse Brown was a Marine veteran who was wounded in Vietnam in 1965. But that did not stop his life calling of service to others. He joined DAV in 1967 and became our organization's first African-American executive director before being selected in 1993 by the President of the United States to become the first African-American Secretary of Veterans Affairs. This year, we have selected 8 of the nation's outstanding young volunteers to receive assistance pursuing their education through this program. The scholarship not only incentivizes volunteerism, but also connects future leaders with veterans and encourages a lifelong commitment on their behalf. Now, let's get to know one of these young leaders and this year's top Jesse Brown Memorial Youth Scholarship winner a little more.
I volunteer not only to change my life, but to inspire change in the lives of the veterans and the individuals in my community. I strive to be an example for my generation by demonstrating that giving back, you receive so much more in return. And who more important to give back to than the veterans? I would encourage the youth to come and volunteer at the hospital so that they can have the opportunity to learn from the veterans and the medical professionals here at the hospital. Also having the opportunity to go to different departments of the hospital and learn different things, different medical terminology, and also being able to help the veterans and enrich their lives and their time here at the VA so that they can have a warm feeling from the volunteers, letting them know that we are here for them and to benefit their lives. My future plans are to graduate from Winthrop University with an exercise science degree with aspirations of becoming a physician assistant, hopefully to be able to work in a local VA hospital to continue to give back to the veterans in my community as well.
DAV National Volunteer Service Director John Klein-Dinks, will you please join me on stage? And now, it's my extreme pleasure to welcome our top recipient, Daniel Finney of Rock Hill, South Carolina, to the stage.
Daniel Finney, a volunteer at the Columbia VA Healthcare System at the Rock Hill VA Clinic, has donated more than 1,200 volunteer hours serving veterans over the past 7 years. While in high school, Daniel's influence and dedication was instrumental in introducing more than 15 new volunteers to the Dorn VA Summer Student Volunteer Program. He is currently volunteering on a national VA telehealth initiative, connecting with veterans to teach them how to use virtual platforms for medical appointments. Daniel is currently attending Winthrop University in South Carolina and studying exercise science with the goal of becoming a physician's assistant.
Good morning. I am extremely honored to be this year's Jesse Brown Memorial Youth Scholarship recipient. I want to thank the DAV for recognizing me for my ongoing volunteer efforts and selecting me for this prestigious award. I want to thank my mother and father for their steadfast love and guidance on my journey as a servant leader. I want to thank Ms. Vicki Johnson for nominating me and supporting me. Dr. Sabrina Clark for her amazing vision and dedication to providing opportunities for young adults to impact the lives of veterans. And last, but certainly not least, all veterans. Thank you, for without your selfless sacrifices, I wouldn't be where I am today. We all know during these past 17 months, COVID has brought challenges to us personally and in healthcare communities around the world, which forced us to adjust to a new lifestyle. This including not being able to see loved ones face to face, quarantining, and asking people 4 and 5 times because you can't hear, asking people 4 and 5 times to repeat themselves because you can't hear what you're saying underneath those masks. But COVID has also presented adversity in my volunteer efforts. This was troubling, because I was more concerned about the veterans' well-being during these tough times. As luck would have it, I was made aware of an opportunity to continue my passion for volunteering with the veterans, and I happily accepted. I was appointed to serve as a telehealth volunteer for a VA national pilot program. The assignment allows me to virtually help veterans efficiently use their electronic devices to log on to their virtual appointments by providing step-by-step service so that they can continue to receive their care. Now, there's no doubt that COVID brought devastation, but there was also change for the good. Community supporting one another, families spending time together, and the earth having time to heal. The world utilized technology more than ever before, and this allowed me to inspire change in the lives of others as I serve as a national mentor to high school students who are seeking to volunteer in the rich lives of the veterans across the country. I've preserved and adapted to change. As a result, I have been blessed with the amazing opportunity, met and connected with people, and inspired change in the youth to carry the torch to become the next generation of volunteers to care for our veterans. A reporter, Margaret Gardner, wrote, if we go back to the way things were, we will have lost the lesson. May we rise up and do better. It is my intent as a man, student, mentor, and volunteer to embrace the lesson. I will remain steadfast and focused in adopting the DAV's purpose to empower veterans to lead high-quality lives with respect and dignity. In closing, thank you, disabled American veterans, for enabling me to be here for this prestigious honor. I challenge all DAV chapters to reach out and mentor young adults like myself, because we are stronger together. Thank you, and Godspeed.
Can we get a picture?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you for all you do for veterans, Daniel, and I wish you nothing but continued success. As we are all aware, we were unable to hold a traditional national convention last year in Dallas. This meant the winners of some of our most prestigious awards were not able to be recognized by the veteran community they serve. While we don't have the time to invite everyone up on the stage, we do want to take a moment to recognize them. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to last year's top scholarship winner from Cheyenne, Wyoming, Tanner Johnson. Tanner was inspired to give back by his father's 20-year Air Force career and has volunteered since he was 10 years old, ultimately amassing over 1,600 volunteer hours at the Cheyenne VA Medical Center. Members of DAV and Auxiliary are, without a doubt, among the most dedicated and caring volunteers in our nation. They don't give for the recognition. They do it because of their compassion toward our veterans and desire to assist in keeping our promise to those who served. It is now my pleasure to announce the winners of the 2021 George H. Seal Memorial Awards. The winner of this year's DAV George Seal Memorial Awards resides in Columbia, South Carolina, and is a proud veteran of the United States Navy. It is my pleasure to introduce Miss D. Davis.
D.S. Davis, a member of Chapter 5 in Sumter, South Carolina, has volunteered for 15 years and has given more than 12,000 hours in service to her fellow veterans at the William Jennings Bryan Dorn VA Medical Center in Columbia, South Carolina. Davis has volunteered in just about every possible capacity at the medical center. As a Navy veteran, Davis knows firsthand the struggles and challenges other veterans may face. Davis has demonstrated that resiliency is a skill that can be learned, and she has taught that spirit to many of her fellow veterans.
Good morning, DAV auxiliary guests. Good morning, Tampa. It's an honor to be here and something that I never would have dreamed of. Thank you so much for nominating me for this award, and thank you for choosing me to be the recipient. This is something that comes naturally to me, so I wouldn't think of asking for any kind of extras. In my opinion, being a veteran and advocating for other veterans, listening to them is how I have made the biggest impact to veterans' morale. As a volunteer at the hospital and in other venues, I've had the opportunity on many occasions to step in and speak out when the situation wouldn't allow a staff member to speak or to challenge an issue. I've been the voice for many veterans who couldn't speak for themselves, and I've helped many find hope. I've listened when veterans had no one to talk to and sat beside their beds when there was no one left in their families to come and visit. I filled a gap between the VA limits and the requirements of the community. I've helped veterans get into treatment programs, find housing, reconnect with families, and handle legal issues, to name a few. Often they didn't meet the requirements of the VA or the standards set for the community recipients, so somebody has to fill that gap. I volunteered occasionally at the Hampton VA Medical Center, but back then I was a mess. I had lost my best friend in the bombing of the USS Cole right after I got out of the Navy, about 3 weeks after I got out, and I shut down. Everything became hard. I couldn't go out the house by myself. I couldn't answer the phone anymore. Making decisions became painful. So I was just kind of stumbling around. I didn't feel like I had a purpose anymore. I walked into the VA on September 11th. I saw a room full of men crying. I walked in, I asked what had happened, and we sat and talked for hours. I think that's where my volunteer journey began. I found a purpose. Through the years, I have been able to sit beside people and listen to their stories, listen to what compelled them to do what they did, why they went in the military, what their lives had been like in the military, what they were like when they came out of the military. And it's been great to be able to be a part of that and to help people find hope again. That's where I feel my purpose. This last little while we were on a pandemic stand down, it's been really hard for every one of us. We all have to find something new to do now. We all have different needs than we did 2 years ago. It has affected every one of us. So we're going to have to step out in many different directions that we're not used to. I fulfilled a very long-standing dream that I had of opening our first Homes of Hope house, an Anchor in the Storm in Lugoff, South Carolina, September of last year. It's a home for female veterans in transition. I hope to have these homes up and running everywhere in the next 10 years. And I can think of nothing better than to have the DAV be a part of that. Thank you all.
Congratulations, Ms. Davis, and thank you for all you do for veterans in South Carolina. It is now my pleasure to introduce this year's DAV Auxiliary George H. Seal Memorial Trophy winner, Bonnie Wilkins, a passionate volunteer at the Marion VA Medical Center in Illinois.
Bonnie Wilkins is a member of DAV Auxiliary Unit 69 in Jackson County, Illinois, and began her volunteer work through the DAV Auxiliary an impressive 16 years ago. Bonnie has volunteered in the Community Living Center, Voluntary Services Department, Food on the Move, Compassionate Contact Corps, and flu clinics, to name just a few. When veterans in her rural area were hit hard due to COVID, she coordinated the delivery of food boxes and also recruited veteran DAV volunteer drivers to participate in newly created programs to support and serve their socially isolated and depressed veterans.
Thank you. I am so proud that I was nominated by the Marion, Illinois VA and then selected by the DAV for the George H. Seal Award. I am honored to accept this award, and I dedicate it to my parents who wanted to make a difference for all our disabled veterans, and to the thousands of auxiliary members in Illinois and throughout the United States and Puerto Rico who make a difference every day in the lives of our veterans, disabled veterans. Thank you.
Congratulations, Bonnie. You are a true inspiration for all of us. We'll now take a brief moment to recognize our remarkable George Seal Award winners from last year. The winner of the 2020 DAV George Seal Memorial Award is Eugene Onofrio, a DAV Life member from Chapter 15 in Milford, Connecticut. Eugene is a dedicated VA hospital volunteer and a proud veteran of the United States Army. Eugene has volunteered for 27 years, dedicating more than 15,500 hours of service at the VA Connecticut healthcare system. The 2020 DAV Auxiliary George H. Seal Memorial Award winner was Gretchen Davies, a devoted and passionate volunteer at the Milwaukee VA Medical Center. She's a member of DAV Chapter 19 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. For the past 9 years, Ms. Davies has worked within the Transportation Network office, dedicating nearly 4,000 hours of service to veterans. Golden Corral was a groundbreaking restaurant that was the first to honor veterans nationwide with a free meal in conjunction with Veterans Day less than a month after the terrorist attack of 9/11. DAV is extremely proud to call them partners over the last 20 years. DAV chapters and departments have benefited enormously through the Military Appreciation Night program. More importantly, a countless number of veterans and their families had their lives directly impacted due to the Golden Corral's support. The partnership extended well beyond the famous Military Appreciation Night fun. While they were not able to join us in person, they did want the opportunity to speak to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, Golden Corral CEO Lance Chineri.
I am honored to have the opportunity to speak with all of you for a few minutes today. First, on behalf of our team members and franchisees throughout the Golden Corral system, I want to thank you for your service. At Golden Corral, we love and appreciate our active and retired military members who have given so much so that we may enjoy the many freedoms that we have in this great country. We will always remember the sacrifices you have made for our nation. We also appreciate the wonderful relationship we have with DAV for the last 20 years. Some of our most loyal guests are DAV members, and we are grateful for their support throughout the past year. I am happy to report that we have 340 restaurants completely reopened across the country, with more restaurants opening every week. We are operating in 40 states plus Puerto Rico, which is one of the 6 new restaurants that we've opened in the last year. I am also excited to share that we are ready to relaunch our Military Appreciation Night this year on Veterans Day, Thursday, November the 11th. We look forward to serving all of you an incredible Golden Corral free meal that evening, and we anticipate partnering with many of the local chapters across the country on fundraising initiatives leading up to and during our Military Appreciation Night. It is great to be able to bring back this tradition that started 20 years ago to celebrate our nation's heroes. Golden Corral has served nearly 6 million complimentary meals to military personnel and generated nearly $17 million in guest contributions to support community-based service initiatives for veterans through DAV. DAV headquarters will be in touch in October to help you plan for Military Appreciation Night. Thank you again for this opportunity. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your convention. God bless you all, and God bless America.
Thank you, Lance, and all of Golden Corral for what you do for DAV. As our programs continue to evolve, one thing will remain the same. DAV will continue to deliver the most apparent and direct services to impact the lives of veterans and their families. National Adjutant Mark Burgess has continued to provide DAV both with dedicated professionalism and compassionate leadership necessary to oversee our day-to-day operations, as well as a clear vision for the future of our charity. With a core knowledge of services to veterans, thoughtful and methodical leadership ability, and a keen ability not only to care for, but also to inspire his staff and fellow members, this proud Navy veteran has proven himself a truly effective leader and a tremendous asset to DAV. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your DAV National Adjutant, Mark Burgess.
Thank you for that introduction, Commander, but more importantly, thank you for all you have done over the past 2 years to ensure DAV continues to provide a lifetime of support to veterans and their families. I'm sure your tenure wasn't quite what you expected, but it's certainly been an eventful period for the veteran community and our organization. Despite the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic, we chartered a great deal of growth and progress in the last 12 months while continuing DAV's unparalleled focus on service, legislative advocacy, membership, employment, and volunteerism. Now, let's take a look at what DAV has done on behalf of our nation's veterans and heroes throughout this unprecedented year. When National Commander Butch Whitehead was elected in August 2019, our organization was poised to continue its success under his leadership throughout our centennial year, one that was supposed to be filled with numerous in-person celebrations marking 100 years of service to America's disabled veterans and their families. Unfortunately, those plans were curbed when the COVID-19 pandemic reached our shores and forced the cancellation of countless events nationwide throughout 2020, including the year's DAV and Auxiliary National Convention that was to take place in Dallas. Without the convention and its requisite election of national officers, Commander Whitehead retained his position at the helm of our organization, marking only the second time in history that our national commander remained in office for more than 1 year. Fortunately, this turn of events gave DAV and those we serve a second phenomenal year under his steadfast leadership. With the pandemic in high gear in August, Commander Whitehead hosted the DAV and Auxiliary Virtual Salute, a special online event to honor advocates and supporters of America's disabled veterans.
I don't think anyone could have forecasted the events that have forced us together virtually. But I'm more than proud of the dedication and commitment to mission accomplishment that I have seen out of the DAV staff. DAV volunteers, and the entire organization.
The event also recognized our 2020 Outstanding Disabled Veteran of the Year, Adam Greathouse, an Army veteran who suffered a traumatic brain injury and collapsed lung due to toxic exposure in Kosovo. After years of depression and addiction, Adam pulled his life together and now works at his local VA medical center in West Virginia to help other veterans get their lives back on track.
I drive about 2 hours and 15 minutes one way, 3 days a week. And I would do that to go meet veterans, walk them through the process.
Another event led by Commander Whitehead was the first ever virtual DAV 5K in November. We were very grateful to have Humana as the presenting sponsor for this event, which featured more than 3,400 participants taking part in every state across the country, walking, rolling, running or riding as a way to thank those who served and raise awareness of the issues veterans face today. Known as one of the premier veterans advocacy organizations in Washington, DAV's legislative efforts continued despite the pandemic, resulting in a number of victories for ill and injured veterans as the 116th Congress came to a close. In 2020, 36 DAV resolutions were included in federal legislation, 8 of which were adopted and passed into law. As we work with a new presidential administration and new leadership at the VA under Secretary Dennis Mcdonough, DAV is confident in the progress that can be made in achieving our key legislative goals for the 117th Congress. In February, as part of our virtual midwinter event, DAV's national legislative team posted a series of videos on DAV.org that laid out these goals and provided tips for benefit protection team leaders on how to increase the efficacy of members and supporters' advocacy efforts in a virtual environment. As part of our midwinter activities, Commander Whitehead provided testimony virtually before Congress during a joint session of the House and Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, where he advocated for the passage of the Veterans Burn Pits Exposure Recognition Act, a DAV conceptualized piece of legislation that would formally concede that veterans who served near burn pits were exposed to harmful chemicals and toxins and make it easier to prove direct service connection in their VA disability claims.
Thank you for providing me the opportunity to present the 2021 legislative program of DAV, Disabled American Veterans.
Commander Whitehead also pressed lawmakers on other topics, such as addressing gaps and inequities in programs and services for women and minority veterans, and strengthening veterans' mental health care and suicide prevention programs. DAV continues to be the nationwide leader in representing veterans in their claims for benefits, fighting to ensure they receive justice for the sacrifices they've made during service. With more than 1.1 million powers of attorney, DAV provided representation for more than 160,000 VA claims and helped veterans and family members obtain more than $23 billion in earned benefits in 2020. DAV's disaster relief program also continued making an impact by aiding our fellow veterans across the nation who unfortunately found themselves victims of natural disasters. Over the past 5 years, the program has provided nearly $4 million to veterans affected by natural disasters. While some of our service offices have reopened following local, state, and CDC guidelines, the nationwide call system DAV immediately set up at the beginning of the pandemic allowed our national service officers and employees to provide normal benefit services uninterrupted to those in need. As unemployment soared in the wake of the pandemic, DAV was there to help veterans through very difficult times. From April 2020 to May 2021, the COVID-19 Unemployment Relief Fund assisted veterans who lost jobs or income as a result of the pandemic. More than 8,500 veterans received more than $2.1 million in relief. In 2020, DAV helped facilitate 92 in-person and virtual job fairs, which had more than 32,000 attendees. Since 2014, nearly 240,000 attendees have received more than 151,000 job offers through these events. These efforts, along with our partnership with Hiring America's televised Veteran Employment Series, highlighted DAV's growing influence in this area. This spring, our membership department provided guidance to departments and chapters nationwide, permitting them to reopen their doors from COVID-19 shutdowns as long as they are able to meet state, local, and CDC guidelines. With the safety and well-being of our members and the general public being DAV's top priority, and with vaccinations being administered throughout the country, many chapters have reopened under this guidance. The department also continued its effort to recruit new members through its Recruit a Warrior initiative, which helps our members reach as many veterans as possible with just a few clicks of a mouse. By signing up for and sharing personalized Recruit a Warrior links on social media, members can collect recruitment points to be used toward DAV gear and other rewards. For 2020, DAV Transportation Network drivers spent more than 675,000 hours, logging over 9.6 million miles, and providing more than 243,000 rides to veterans at no cost. Since 1987, more than 19 million veterans have been transported over 760 million miles through the program, enough to go around the world more than 30,500 times. DAV chapters and departments, along with the National Service Foundation's Columbia Trust, have also donated more than 3,500 vehicles to the program, while Ford Motor Company, whose support of DAV dates back to Henry Ford providing 50 Model Ts to bring disabled World War I veterans to our second National Convention in 1922, has also donated more than 230 vehicles. In 2020, Ford also donated more than 1 million face masks to help support DAV's mission and to protect our nation's veterans during COVID-19. The masks were distributed primarily to VA medical centers to protect veterans, their caregivers, and the many selfless volunteers. They were also sent to national service offices where veterans receive assistance and the organization's headquarters to protect DAV staff so they could continue safely supporting the men and women who served. Both the National Disabled Veterans Tea Tournament in September and National Disabled Veterans Winter Sports Clinic in March were turned into virtual events. Usually held on the greens in Iowa or the mountains of Colorado respectively, DAV and the VA teamed up to provide participants with at-home video instruction. These videos are archived on each event's website and will serve as invaluable tools to help veterans along their rehabilitative journeys. The Charitable Service Trust supports dozens of unique initiatives that provide injured and ill veterans rehabilitative and emotional therapy, transition assistance, employment support, emergency relief, and a range of other services. Last year, the Trust once again received a perfect score from Charity Navigator for sound fiscal management and commitment to accountability and transparency. It was the 16th time the Trust has received the coveted 4-star rating from America's largest independent charity evaluator since first being evaluated in 2002, and the acknowledgement speaks volumes about the Trust's careful and efficient stewardship of donated funds, as more than 95 cents of every dollar donated to the Trust went to programs that directly support veterans. In 2020, the Trust issued more than $7.2 million in grants to support our nation's heroes, their families, and survivors. In October, the Trust awarded a $1 million grant to Save a Warrior, an Ohio-based nonprofit committed to ending the staggering suicide rate plaguing veterans, active duty military, and first responders. The grant was used to support the construction and development of Save a Warrior's new DAV National Center of Excellence, which broke ground in April and will provide a healing outlet for ill and injured veterans combating suicide and mental health issues. We have also continued expanding our social media reach with 98 million interactions on Facebook, 5.6 million interactions on Twitter, 7.4 million on Instagram, and 3.2 million on LinkedIn. Additionally, DAV public service announcements garnered 9.7 billion impressions at an earned media value of nearly $108 million in 2020. In September, along with Department of Ohio's Commander John Plavensock, I laid a wreath at the grave of DAV founder Judge Robert Marks to pay our respects to his contribution to our organization and commemorate its 100th anniversary. Even 60 years after his death, his accomplishments are still having a direct and positive impact on so many lives. Thanks also came from the fighters of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, who have cemented themselves as dedicated supporters of DAV and its mission. Since teaming up, the UFC has become a prominent partner in highlighting the organization and the impact it makes in the lives of veterans to a new audience.
Congratulations, DAV, on your 100th anniversary.
Thank you, DAV, for supporting more victories for veterans.
In November, DAV teamed up with the History Channel to air The Battle Never Ends, an hour-long documentary highlighting the origins of DAV and its accomplishments throughout the past century. The program was partially filmed at the American Veterans Disabled for Life Memorial in Washington, D.C. It was hosted and narrated by actor and Hollywood military advisor Dale Dye, a combat wounded Marine veteran of Vietnam and DAV Life member. The documentary is a chronicle look back at America's military engagements from World War I to today. It focuses on how DAV responded to the emerging needs of disabled veterans and their families throughout our history.
I never knew that I could get my automobile modified. Those are the kinds of things that DAV does for the veteran.
DAV also continued its Field of Flags campaign at our national headquarters in Cold Spring, Kentucky. This year, we were honored to have EG America as the campaign's matching gift partner. With their generous support, more than 1,700 flags honored the sacrifices of America's veterans, and we raised more than $100,000 to support them. The campaign was certainly a success, and it was the last time it would take place in Cold Spring. This past year, DAV began construction on its new national headquarters in Erlanger, Kentucky, just a few miles up the road from Cold Spring. The new headquarters, which opens this summer, replaces a nearly 60-year-old facility that is too big and inefficient for DAV's modern needs. It will be a place where DAV's team members, leaders, and supporters can gather to collaborate, strategize, and execute on behalf of our nation's heroes. In addition to being designed for a more efficient, modern workforce, the new headquarters location has greater visibility in the greater Cincinnati area, which will bring more awareness to our free services and support for veterans and their families. Supporting us in our efforts is the DAV Auxiliary, which had another busy year under the guidance of Commander Diane, who also retained her office. Through their unmatched, dedicated service to local community veterans, Commander Franz, National Adjutant Pat Kemper, and the rest of our friends and allies in the Auxiliary continued their efforts to support those who served and their families.
Usually we do an annual Thanksgiving dinner, but this year with COVID, we're not able to do that. So we're putting these bags together with little things that each veteran can enjoy while they're staying here at the medical center. Thank you all for your donations, and thank you for everything you do.
And thank you for all that you do. The COVID-19 pandemic has certainly brought challenging times for our nation, its veterans, and their families. But DAV, an organization of veterans serving veterans, has adapted to continue meeting the needs of those we serve. With growing numbers of Americans vaccinated, we can now finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like you, I look forward to getting through this. I look forward to seeing our dedicated members, volunteers, and supporters ramp up efforts to do right by those forever changed in service. And I look forward to another year serving alongside you to keep our promises to America's veterans and their families. As you can see, it's been a big year for DAV and the veterans that we serve. Looking to the future, your hard work will be as important as ever as we fight to ensure that health care, benefits, and services are accessible to our fellow veterans and their families. But we couldn't achieve any of this without the leaders in this room and your fellow veterans and family members back home. While we often highlight what happens in Washington, D.C., we know that the real work of DAV takes place across the country as service officers, volunteers, and advocates all play their parts. As we mark our century of service, I think about the many hands, hearts, and voices who made the DAV the nation's premier veteran service organization, and I am confident that our future is secure. As long as all of you continue to lend your time and talents to our cause, DAV will continue to empower our nation's heroes and their families. I'm humbled to serve alongside you. Working together, I know that we will achieve many more victories for veterans in the years ahead. Commander Whitehead, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Mark. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the National Adjutant's outstanding report. May I have a second?
Kirk Johnson, District 16, I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So ordered. Humana is one of the nation's leading health and well-being companies, and I couldn't be happier about calling them a partner. The relationship with DAV aligns with its rich history of supporting the men and women who served. It expands Humana's growing commitment to organizations that provide critical programs and services for veterans and their families. Joining us today from Humana is former U.S. Marine Mr. Ed Sandrick. Ed has been with Humana for 20 years and has served in a variety of leadership roles. In 2011, Ed assumed the role of Director of Humana Veteran Initiative, and in 2013, moved to Humana's Strategic Alliance organization as the Director of the Veterans Channel. After leaving active duty in the Marine Corps in 1979, Ed began a career in hospital administration at Rush University Medical Center in Chicago. Ed has held a variety of executive level positions in both hospital administration and managed care at the local and national level. He retired from the Marine Corps Reserve in 2000. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ed Sandrick.
Well, good morning. My name is Ed Sandrick, and I am honored to be with you. I am from Humana. To the National Commander, Stephen Whitehead, and National Adjutant, Mark Burgess, honored guests and friends, it's great to be here in person. And on behalf of Humana and its 50,000 plus associates across the country, we salute you during this year 2021 National Convention. Like DAV, Humana is focused on empowering veterans to lead high-quality lives filled with the resources needed to maximize their physical and mental health. We're proud to have joined forces with DAV as it has expanded our capabilities in helping veterans overcome barriers. Together, we're building vital pathways that address the unique healthcare needs of a population that deserves our best. While our partnership with DAV is new, Humana has a long-standing relationship with the military and other veteran service organizations. We pride ourselves in being a key resource for veterans and their families, and we aim to do well by doing good in the communities we serve across the country. We understand that partnering with DAV and other VSOs gives us the honor to work side by side with organizations that share our commitment to helping veterans achieve their best health. A part of our doing good is through Humana's bold goal, a population health strategy. We're addressing the social needs that may impede on the health of veterans. As food insecurity, loneliness, other social determinants of health impact the lives of veterans, Humana, through its bold goal, is actively leveraging a differentiated approach to positively lift and protect the veteran population. We believe that Humana and DAV can work effectively together to improve the lives of our veterans and their families by leveraging our respective strengths as national organizations with local community presence. And we look forward to working with you for many years to come. Thank you again for your partnership, and thank you for all you do for veterans.
Well done, Marine. Thank you for all that you do for Humana and our veterans. It is our distinct honor each and every year to recognize an individual who, through both tenacity and actions, reflects DAV's commitment to that no veteran should have to face the challenging road to recovery alone. Former Army Green Beret Mike Mckellany was one of the first American troops in Afghanistan in 2001. He was gravely injured when a U.S. bomb was mistakenly dropped on his location, resulting in the loss of his right arm. He was one of the first post-9/11 casualties and has seen a lot since his life was forever changed in service. He got his first taste of advocacy when meeting a soldier with a similar injury who did not have the specialized prosthetic like his. A new mission began for him when he started making calls so that young soldier could experience a higher quality of life with the appropriate prosthetic. Mike has since been a faithful advocate for veterans and DAV in Minnesota. As Chief of Staff for Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs, he regularly testifies in the state legislature on behalf of ill and injured veterans. Through his advocacy, Mike has increased funding for state veterans homes and connected DAV with supporters to fund critical programs that touch the lives of veterans throughout Minnesota and the nation. Let's get to know him a little better.
I joined the infantry. First unit was in Germany, right about the time the wall was coming down, 89, 90. And after about 4 years, it just started getting dull after the Gulf War. And I had two predecessor squad leaders that joined Special Forces. So that's the path I wanted to go on and see if I had what it takes. So I went and joined Special Forces. We were the first team to go into southern Afghanistan. At that time, it was early in the war. We had some new elements come in. They brought in some new equipment. This equipment malfunctioned, had a bad battery signal. So they changed one of the BA-5590s. And what that result did is kind of recalibrated the laser to where the next shot would calculate the location that you're at. So this TACP at the time lased the target, sent that coordinate up to B-52, who obviously plugged in that coordinate and dropped a 2,000-pound JDAM on us. There was this young E4 that was in the OT, occupational therapy, with me, and he was brand new, 101st, just lost his arm. What are they going to do? They're not telling him anything, and he had a hook. I remember I had a bunch of business cards in my car at that time. And I said, let me give you all these, and it was, the secretary of this and the, 4-star general of that and all these kinds of things. And I said, these people told me to call them anytime, I have an issue. So take all these and call them. I mean, seriously, call them. They're here to help, and there's no reason he should have this. And then it was just kind of, I don't know, it's just one of those things that affected me, like, we can do better in this.
I nominated Mike for the Outstanding Disabled Veteran of the Year for all he's done. Since I've known him since 2012, he's always going above and beyond at helping all veterans, but particularly disabled veterans, in legislative work, to outdoor activities, you name it. Mike is doing so much. He's bent over backwards. He himself, being a disabled veteran, he knows how important it is that we continue to improve things for disabled veterans.
Mike has done a wonderful job as a member of the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs. The three things that really come to my mind off the top of my head are his ability as a legislative director to assist us in getting the funding for the 3 new homes in Minnesota, veterans homes. The bill passed that provided $32 million in funding to go towards these 3 veterans homes. He's also been instrumental as it relates to the Support Our Troops grants program. And lastly, I think most recently is the COVID-19 funding for families of veterans that have been affected by COVID-19 and lost income. We've been able to help over 4,000 veterans with distribution of about $6.2 million.
So I originally met Mike when he was the legislative chair for the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs. Mike learned that I used to hunt and loved to hunt. And once I was injured, I assumed I couldn't do that anymore. And so he encouraged me to pursue that he can still do it, and obviously different challenges, but he completely motivated me to not give up in my pursuit of being able to hunt again, just having to be a little more creative over it. Mike has been instrumental in encouraging me and others to get back into the outdoors, regardless of our injuries.
Ah, little smallie. Or is that what? Yeah, nice.
The outdoors has always been part of my life. That was where the funnest times in my life were as a kid, was in the outdoors with my dad, with my cousins and my friends. And it's just been the most joyous time in my life ever.
So I think one thing with Mike is his passion for the outdoors. Mike's a big hunter and fisherman, and that is something that he's brought to other veterans. And you see Mike get other vets out there on the water or out there hunting. And when you get a group like that with some shared experiences, the vets really start to open up. They start to really be able to talk about some things maybe that they don't talk about, and connecting the outdoors and those experiences is something that he does great.
I think inherently people want to help veterans and want to be connected to that kind of help. Most of them just don't have someone who will put it together for them.
I met Mike, he had been on a hunt, and I helped him sort some issues out he had with that hunt. At that point in time, I realized that we needed to do something differently than what was being done. Those of us that have lived in the outdoors have an idea that there's a healing process that becomes pretty visible, and that if we can combine some of that with these veterans that are sometimes not having the best day, and give them some peace and provide opportunities for them to talk to other veterans that may have had the same issues, or maybe veterans from a previous generation that had issues in a different way, we get pretty positive results. I asked Mike to research who we should work with. He said there's no question we should be working with the DAV. It took him some time to research it, but that's what he came up with. And so I started to put together these fundraisers, which took place, and we raised $1.25 million and helped more than 3,000 veterans do things in the outdoors that made them feel better about life.
You're disabled, but you don't really have to worry about that. You just got to kind of figure out what brings you joy and do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, for his critical work in helping veterans overcome obstacles, as well as his commitment to overcoming his very own struggles, we're proud to introduce our 2021 Outstanding Disabled Veteran of the Year and DAV Life member of Chapter 28 in Rochester, Minnesota, Mike Mckellany.
Well, thank you, Commander Whitehead, Mark, staff, distinguished guest, most importantly, the membership and the folks behind the scenes making it all happen. This is truly an honor, something not expected, something I certainly didn't set out to do. you know, this is quite overwhelming because, you know, every day I wake up, you know, I'm going to work, I'm doing my job, and that's how I see it. You know, I became involved with the DAV shortly after my wounds in 2002 at one of the winter sports clinics, and I met a lot of great people out there and really saw, you know, innovation and things still out there in life. That was one of my biggest fears when I was first wounded is, you know, what am I going to do now? But through the DAV, the folks that volunteer for us every day, I mean, my life has been great. You know, I often look at myself as an anomaly. I'm a little emotional here, I apologize, but, you know, I think I had life pretty easy, you know, in the military. From the time I was wounded, I went through Walter Reed's Ward 57, and that's like royalty. And I'd never experienced, you know, treatment like that before. But, you know, they did such a wonderful job. The DAV, again, took me right out to Aspen, and then I was able to finish my military career, which is something not everyone can do in a situation after a severe wound. And so, you know, that's irregular, I think. Much more after the fact, that's become more of the norm, and I think that's a great thing. There's still great folks out there that can do great things in the military regardless of their injuries. But nonetheless, you know, I had it again fairly easy, I think, when I got out of the military. I was able to find a job. I was able to work with the people that I wanted to work with, that I associated with, the veterans, you know, our military communities. That's, you know, people ask me, why do you do what you do? And they're my people. They're my tribe. I grew up in a military family. They're my people. I want to be nowhere else. And so going to work every day is quite easy and joyous for me. But the whole time I was doing what I was doing, I was never in it for accolades or recognition. It's just been easy in the state of Minnesota, and I think, you know, nothing's really easy, but we've got such a great team. Commander Whitehead, Trent Dilks back here, the adjutant for the state of Minnesota DAV, does so much work behind the scenes and is so active with our legislature. He's really leading and pulling a lot of stuff together all the time. And I look at myself as a cog in the wheel. I did some, you know, legislative work before I became to the position I'm at today in the department, and it was just the right thing to do to put effort forward to take care of all the veterans that have provided myself and people like me such a great and easy life here in the United States. So I really appreciate this. I'm not, I mean, words cannot say what I'm feeling right now, Commander. I really greatly appreciate it, so thank you so much.
Thank you for your service, friendship, and your dedication to your fellow veterans, and congratulations again on a well-deserved honor, Mike. Michael isn't the only outstanding veteran here. There are many, but one deserves our special consideration for his critical work in helping veterans overcome obstacles, as well as his commitment to overcoming his own struggles in the wake of the devastating personal injuries. We're joined by our 2020 Outstanding Disabled Veteran of the Year, Adam Greathouse. The pandemic may have kept us apart throughout much of 2020, but Adam continued to shine as a volunteer and ambassador to disabled veterans in his home state of West Virginia. We honored him during the virtual salute, but now it's my honor to salute him back. I'll now ask National Adjutant to read DAV's Statement of Policy, to list committee advisors whom I have appointed and whom received the approval of National Executive Committee at its most recent meeting, and to make any further announcements. Mark?
DAV was founded on the principle that this nation's first duty to veterans is the rehabilitation and welfare of its wartime disabled. And this principle envisions, 1, high-quality hospital and medical care provided by the Department of Veterans Affairs for veterans with disabilities incurred in or aggravated by service in America's armed forces. 2, adequate compensation for the loss resulting in such service-connected disabilities. 3, vocational rehabilitation and/or education to help the disabled veteran prepare for and obtain gainful employment. 4, enhanced opportunities for employment and preferential job placement so that the remaining ability of the disabled veteran is used productively. 5, adequate compensation to the surviving spouses and dependents of veterans whose deaths are held to be service-connected under laws administered by the Department of Veterans Affairs. 6, enhanced outreach to ensure that disabled veterans receive all benefits they have earned and that the American people understand and respect the needs these veterans encounter as a result of their disabilities. It therefore follows that we will not take action on any resolution that proposes legislation designed to provide benefits for veterans, their surviving spouses, and dependents, which are based upon other than wartime service-connected disability. We shall not oppose legislation beneficial to those veterans not classified as service-connected disabled, except when it is evident that such legislation will jeopardize benefits for service-connected disabled veterans. And while our first duty as an organization is to assist the service-connected disabled, their surviving spouses, and dependents, we shall, within the limits of our resources, assist others in filing, perfecting, and prosecuting their claims for benefits. Since this represents the principle upon which our organization was founded, and since it is as sound at this time as it was in 1920, we hereby reaffirm this principle as the policy for the disabled American veterans. I would now like to read into the record National Commander Whitehead's appointed Convention Committee advisors. For the Credentials Committee, Mike Dobmeyer and Doug Wells. General Resolutions and Membership, Scott Hope and John Retzer. Legislation and Veterans' Rights, Joy Elam and Shane Learman. Constitution and Bylaws, Rob Reynolds and Ed Hartman. Employment, Jeremy Villanueva, Jeff Hall. Hospital and Voluntary Services, Marquis Bearfield and John Kleindienst. And Nomination of National Officers, Joe Johnston and Al Church. Advisors can pick up their committee folders from the Resolutions Coordinating Office located in the Gandy Room on the 3rd floor of the JW. Before I go any further, I would like to acknowledge a special guest. Please welcome Marine Major General James Hammer Hartzell, the Executive Director of the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs. I do have a few other announcements. At 2 o'clock this afternoon, we will host the Service and Legislative Seminar, in which we'll welcome Principal Deputy Undersecretary for Benefits, Michael Frew, and the Assistant Undersecretary for Health for Discovery, Education, and Affiliate Networks, Veterans Health Administration, Dr. Carolyn Clancy. People who are interested in attending should be in their seats by 1:45 so that the seminar can begin promptly at 2 o'clock. And you don't want to miss this important discussion. Tonight, we'll be honoring our top elected leader and your service during the National Commander's Reception held right here in the Tampa Ballroom at 7:30 p.m. And remember, you'll need your credentials to gain entry. We'd also like to take a quick moment to thank our friends at Veterans Evaluation Services and Tri-West Health Alliance for their continued and valuable support of our mission and this year's convention. VES has a mission to honor and serve America's veterans and active duty claimants by providing quality and timely reports through fair and objective evaluations, making VES a perfect fit alongside DAV. Founded in 1996, TriWest has made it their mission to serve our nation's veterans and military community. Doing whatever it takes is not only their corporate motto, it's a deep-rooted desire to go above and beyond for their customers because they understand and honor our country's heroes. Thank you, VAS and TriWest, for your support. Beginning this afternoon at 4:15, convention committees are scheduled to meet. Those of you who have been elected to convention committees are asked to be on time in the room assigned for your meeting. We ask the committees to complete their work as soon as possible. We are excited to continue our partnership with A&W Restaurants again this year. Given that many restaurants are still recovering from the COVID pandemic, this year's National Root Beer Float Day campaign will only take place in select A&W restaurants. The promotion will culminate on Friday, August 6th, when customers will receive a free root beer float at the participating stores from 2 to 8 p.m. and will be invited to make a donation to DAV. Despite the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic, A&W remains a strong partner of DAV, and we are grateful for their support again this year. We look forward to another successful event this summer and anticipate returning to a nationwide campaign in 2022. Also, thanks to our great partners at A&W, immediately following this opening session, free root beer floats will be made available to all of you in the Tampa Bay foyer. Everybody likes a root beer float. For Fun Night on Monday at 8 p.m., we'll be treated to a special performance from Jefferson Starship. Fun Night is once again being presented by TriWest Healthcare Alliance, and we can't thank TriWest enough for all of their dedicated support and generosity over the years. They helped make this event a success, and I know everyone in this room appreciates it. Check your program or convention app on your phone for more information on events and links to view and download photos, videos, reports, and other content. We also have our very own television channel while we're here in Tampa. You can find DAV TV on channel 61 for our guests staying at the JW and Marriott properties. We'll be streaming DAV's Centennial documentary, The Battle Never Ends, and other DAV content through Tuesday. Our first business session will convene tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. At that time, we'll hear reports from our headquarters executive directors and the board of directors treasurer. We'll also honor employers, VA employees, volunteers, and our top recruiters. Also, if you intend to donate to any DAV entity in the interest of time, please fill out the form in your bags prior to making your way to our donation booth located on level 2 near Will Call. We're giving away 3 $50 gift certificates that can be redeemed at the DAV store online here during National Convention. All registered convention attendees are eligible but must be present to win. If I call your name and you're in the hall, please see Membership Director Doug Wells up here on the stage as soon as we adjourn. And the lucky winners are Ellen Stokes, Marvin Cheney, and Robert Hayburn. Commander, that's all the announcements.
Thank you, Mark. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise while I ask Chaplain Mcdonough to lead us in closing prayer.
Please join me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for being with us and the chance to get an inspiration from each and every person here today. We thank you for the century of service to disabled veterans and their families, and for each volunteer in the audience that contributes to that, and our volunteers at home. We thank you for our youth volunteers, and we know with your guidance they will go far to change the future for not only our organization, but for the world. We thank you for the privilege to have our volunteer drivers continue throughout the pandemic. We thank you for our leadership here of the DAV and auxiliary nationally, state, and locally that not only thrived through the pandemic, but utilized the latest of technology to grow and change and adapt. We thank you for our veterans amongst us who use their skills to not only help their fellow veteran to adapt, but help them overcome and live better lives because of their selfless service to each other. We pray that you'll go with us. We pray that you'll comfort those who are grieving lost loved ones and keep us throughout our convention. In your name, amen.
The convention stands in recess until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.